everyone, welcome to Two Car Bros. My name is Ryan and today I'm going to show you exactly how to change the rear brakes on a 2014 Ford F-150. This is a pretty simple rear brake job. It is something you could totally do in a garage type situation or even a driveway with some jacks and a jack stands. I've also left a link down below in the description to everything we use today. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump in. So what we need to do is remove our brake caliper first. That's this bit here, and the way you do that is you remove these two 13mm bolts. Now sometimes when you try to remove these, the inner threads right here like to spin, and it is too thin to get a wrench in there, so what you want to do is just grab a pair of channel locks and just hold the outer diameter like this as best you can. Hopefully yours doesn't spin though. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. The little slide threads. I have my electric ratchet here. All right, I got lucky, very cool. And again, if you don't get lucky, you can just hold on to that with some channel locks, and it should be pretty good. Oh, this thing is just coming apart. So now we should be able to maneuver the caliper off like this. Just back it straight up. Don't try to like go one way too much with it. You just want to come completely out. And then I'm going to flip this over here and let it sit on top of the leaf spring so that way it's not hanging by the line. So next we can remove the two 18mm bolts that actually hold the slide assembly that holds the caliper to the truck. And those are an 18mm. I'm going to use my breaker bar because these are usually on pretty darn good. That's good. Ugh. I'm going to back the rest of the way off. My electric ratchet, super handy. There we go. And then we can do the top one while supporting the bracket, because after I take this bolt out, it's going to want to fall off on me. And as soon as this bracket's out of the way, keep an eye on the rotor. It can technically fall off. Nice. And then we can just remove this bracket straight out like that, take it over to our workbench. So what we can do next is try to get the rotor off. Sometimes you can just kind of wiggle it back and forth and it'll eventually come off. Mine's not really lucky in this case. Also, make sure the parking brake has been released because the parking brake is like a drum shoe that expands outwards and will hold the rotor on, so make sure the parking brake is released. But this one, you can see that the corrosion has taken up the gap between the center register and the rotor. And that's no good. It's going to be stuck on. There's really no way that's going to be able to get off. So what we're going to do is take our lugs and just spin them back on for right now. And all this is going to do is protect our threads. Because replacing a lug nut's really easy. Replacing threads is more of a challenge. And then what we can do is we're going to strike the rotor. Now, it is super important that you do not hit this surface. Do not hit this surface. This can explode and harm you and do all kinds of horrible things. What you want to do is get your hammer, don some eye protection, some hearing protection, that's why I sound a little funny, I have a full face shield on, and you just want to hit this surface. All the way around it. Keep doing that until it comes apart. So we're going to spray the center register here with some WD-40. Rotate it around, let it get nice and soaked in on that center register, because the only thing holding this in is that corrosion. And we can try. So just keep at it. Until it comes loose. Like this one is, I think this one's good actually. You'll see it pop loose the center register and the rotor. So then we should be able to, yeah, there we go. Wiggle the rotor off of there. And away. So the next thing we can do is kind of disassemble our brake pad holder. So what you want to do is just kind of bring the pads inward, release the little clips. Oh, maybe it comes outward. Maybe it does. Oh, there we go. So you can just bring them inward and then outward. And then we're going to hold on to this one that was interfacing with the caliper. It's a surprise tool we'll use for later. And then we can unbox our new brake pads. These are made by AC Delco. Yes, you can put GM parts on a Ford. It's completely fine. I really like using AC Delco stuff, especially for brakes. And the part number is right there, but the link will be down below in the description for your convenience. So we can just spill those out. Oh, good. It came with new clips and everything. Very cool. Sometimes they don't. And we can just kind of take a look at our brake pads. Are they the same thing? Yes, they are. So we are cleared to put those back on. So what we want to do is get our springs out, and then we can just kind of pop off our old ones like that. And then put on our new ones. And you just want to make sure that the orientation is correct. Oh yeah, like that. Check that out. Very cool. Do that for both sides. Sometimes they can be a little sticky, so just rip it off with a pair of channel locks. And then again, we can put that on the correct orientation. Make sure you don't get that mixed up. Sometimes it's easier to put the back on first and then kind of curl the top around. Yeah, like that. Sweet. So that's what that should look like. And then what we're going to do is we're going to remove our slides. And we're just going to clean those off as best as we can. Now, some people like to really get in there with a Q-tip and scrape out all of the grease and whatnot. I'm not going to do that. I welcome you to do that if you want to. So the key to getting these slide bolts back on is getting the boot and putting the boot on first. Some people try to put the boot on the slide bolt and then slide the slide bolt in. Not going to work. So now we can lubricate it with some fresh new grease. I just have some regular high temp silicone brake grease. And this doesn't need to be like super goopy. That is perfectly sufficient. And then you can just install those, make sure these are sliding just like that. Very nice. Do the same thing for this guy too. And don't mix the pins up. It does matter which one goes in where. Put the boot back on. There we go. And then we can slide that back in. Again, making sure this has full range of motion, which it does. Now, some people, I'm not one of them, swear and prefer to put grease right into here where the brake pad actually interfaces with these little clips. I'm against that because once grease heats up, it gets quite liquidy. And if that happens and the grease gets on your brakes, you can probably imagine what happens. So I don't agree with putting grease on the slides. You might feel differently, and that's perfectly fine. Just go ahead and do it if you like, but I'm not going to. Then we can install our brake pads. So you want to put it on its ear like that for both sides. It can be a little tricky to try to get both at the same time, but just keep at it. Sometimes it's easier just to put one side in, lift the ear up, and then slide it into place like that, and then just slide it outward. Oh, it looks like you can slide it from the outside too. Okay, that works as well. Sometimes you can do that, sometimes you can't. But it looks like you can just do it from the outside as well. Yeah, you can. Okay, cool. I thought there might be a tang or something preventing that, but nope. And then we just want to leave it in this position right here, and this portion is ready to go back on the truck, but the truck's not ready for us yet. So remember when I told you to hold on to one of the brake pads? This is what it's for. We're going to load it back up into the caliper, just like that. Excellent. And then this next bit, I actually have this nice fancy tool. That specific job is for brake caliper retraction, piston retraction into it. I understand if you don't have one of these, they're a pretty weird tool, but the link is down below in the description. They're not terribly expensive. Alternatively, you could just use a C-clamp, but make sure you use the brake pad as a buffer medium because you don't want to crack the piston inside of the caliper, which you can totally do. So make sure that's nice and square, everything's nice and square, and then we're just going to evenly retract that back in. Look how nice and easy this is. I have to tell you, this tool is worth the, I don't know, $12 it costs. Nice and even. It's about even pressure, not like a whole ton of pressure at once. And again, you could use a C-clamp or some channel locks. The only problem with either of those is the back of the caliper isn't completely flat, so getting a grip on it can be challenging. So we're just going to back that all the way up until it's nice and even. You'll notice because the piston will be fully recessed into its housing. Don't go any further than that. It won't go anywhere. You'll just break something. And there you go. Now the caliper is ready to go back on our brand new brakes. So here's our new brake rotor, and the link is down below in the description. It is a very nice AC Delco piece. Now, why is it here on the ground? Because it's in this bag, and you might be able to see the grease that's in there. They don't know how long this rotor is going to sit on the shelf for. This one was made in 2019. But it could just as easily sit on the shelf for 20 years, and they don't want the rotor corroding or rusting while it's on the shelf. So it's sealed in this plastic baggie with some manufacturer's grease on the braking surface, which we don't want. So what we need to do is take it out of our bag here, put it down like that, and then we're going to grab some carburetor spray, or you could use brake clean as well. This is just to hand for me. And we're going to clean that mating surface off. Look at that. Oh, that looks so nice. See, it had some grossness on there, no good. And we can flip her over and do the inboard side. Perfect, and check it out. Our rotor is ready to rock. So now we can replace our freshly clean brake rotor. Oh, and look how nice that is. Now, at this juncture, the rotor's probably not going to fall off, but I'm just going to put a lug nut on there as a safety, just in case. If you keep an eye on it, you probably don't need to do this, but putting the one lug nut on all the way also ensures that the rotor is completely perpendicular with the braking surface, and it makes putting the pad holder and the caliper back on a little bit easier. So now we can put our brake pad holder back on, figure out which way it goes on, which is like that. And then just make sure that the brake pads are in their homes like this. Oh yeah, that's really nice. Check that out. And we can just line it up with our bolt holes. Might be a little challenging, but just keep working at it and you'll get it. Just don't cross thread these bolts, that'd be a big bummer. Once you get one in, you can get the other one in. And then I'm just going to bring them down to touch with my electric ratchet. I'm not going to tighten it all the way just yet. Sweet. And then I'm going to snug these down with my breaker bar. I'm sorry I don't have a torque spec for you. If I find one, I'll try to put it on screen. But, you know, pretty darn tight with a breaker bar is what I would call the torque spec. There we go. Now at this point, what I want to do is take the brake pads and just do this. Make sure they have no gap like that, so that way our caliper will just slide right on it. So now we can take our caliper, making sure we haven't like wound the line for it or anything, and put it on there. And you might go, oh no, my caliper doesn't fit anymore. That's because these slides have slid out. So just push them back in for the top and bottom, and then it should just go right into place like that. So I'm just gonna replace these bolts, grab my 13mm socket and just snug them down. And again, if I find a torque spec for you, I will let you know. But if you don't have a torque wrench, that's fine too. Just, you know, reasonably tight. And then again, if the slide bolt starts turning on you when you're tightening it, just grab some channel locks and hold it in place. But mine didn't spin. Yours will probably be fine too, but just to let you know. So what I'm going to do next is hop in the driver's seat and depress the brake pedal very slowly, all the way down to the end of its travel. And you'll notice you have a very light pedal. So what happens is air is now effectively got between the pads and the rotors. No air has been introduced in the system. You do not need to bleed it because there's no air in it. We're just taking up the slack that we created when we retracted the piston back into the caliper. And the way you get that back out of there is you just actuate the brake slowly, probably like 4 to 6 times. It goes beginning of my third or fourth. Here's number 4. Oh yeah, it's getting to be a very firm pedal. You want this to be very, very firm, because the piston doesn't have to come out very far, because you have all that brand new brake surface. Yeah, Now I have a very, very firm pedal, and that is excellent. But don't take the truck out on the freeway just yet. You need to break the brakes in. Before you go anywhere, you need to break in your brake pads properly, because if you don't, a little glaze can build up on them because there's two brand new machine surfaces coming together, and it'll cause the brakes to not work, which is kind of the opposite of what you want. So how do you do that? I'll just tell you. You want to accelerate up to about 10 miles an hour or so, just around your neighborhood, somewhere where you don't have to stop abruptly. You know, you don't really want to encounter other cars or something, you know, around a parking lot, around your neighborhood, only going 10 miles an hour, not very fast at all, or even slower if you like. And then you're just going to gently push on the brake pedal and let off. Do that about 6 or 7 times, and what that's going to do is bring the two surfaces together and let off. And that dust that it creates, that buildup, is going to kind of zhoosh itself away, a little foof action, and that brake dust doesn't build up and create that glaze, preventing the braking surfaces from working. So that's how to properly break in a new brake pad set for you. Thank you so very much for watching. If you found this video helpful or interesting at all, please consider giving a like or even subscribing. It really helps the channel out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.